Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Choice, where we go through the choice to become an agent, the choice to go full time, and the choice to be where you are at. Today we're joined by Jax, and she is an amazing upcoming agent, used to be a wardrobe stylist. So if you have any fashion questions, go to her, don't go to me. I know some of you think I dress well, I probably don't. And after that, became an agent about 5 years ago and has now reached the point where she's going to hit a cap, has sold $1 million property, and originally started in the rental space. So lots of really interesting stories to say, and I'm interested to hop into everything with you today.
Awesome. Thanks, Garth. Really appreciate you having me on today and psyched to see you, brother. I know this is a blessing, a true blessing to be with you, and I'm super grateful.
Well, let's hop straight into the first question. I appreciate you coming on. The first question's like a super basic one, but I think one that always kind of is a curiosity for people. And why did you become a real estate agent? You were a wardrobe stylist. You were on reality TV. Why become a real estate agent in the first place?
Well, that's a really great question. I have to say, I never thought I was going to be in real estate. My tenure in luxury wardrobing ended at essentially the Bergdorf's of Boston. It was a third generation owned department store. And when the owner closed the store abruptly, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. So my grandmother actually has a brokerage in Argentina and started buying properties here in Boston. And so I started by doing property management. And I had a friend list the property and she put out a lockbox, and an agent came and didn't close the lockbox. We almost lost the key, which would have essentially cost my grandmother over 3K just to rekey the entire building. And that's when I realized, luckily we found the key. But that's when I realized, if somebody's getting paid over $1,000 to rent this apartment, that person should be me. So I went full steam into real estate in 2020, and I got my start at kind of a mom and pop shop that just did rentals. So that was kind of how I jumped into the career. But I knew, from doing wardrobing, being there for my clients, customer service, and really leaning into on the person to person relationship. It was a smooth transition for me, and I knew I could do it full time. So I just kind of cranked on the rentals and here I am.
Wow. Okay, so I know you said full steam and you kind of intimated at it, but I have to ask, like, was the transition immediate, all in, 24/7 real estate, or were you doing something else part-time to supplement it? What was happening there? Or did you just say, I'm all in immediately, let's go?
Well, obviously we had the pandemic. So that kind of gave me the luxury of being able to really study the market and kind of learn and grow, and have, the paychecks coming in from, the pandemic. And then once the doors were open, I just ate, breathed everything, rentals for a full year. The first year I only did probably like 15, and then my second year I did 40. So a huge jump just from, everybody coming back to the city, everybody needing an apartment, and I just did nothing but rentals for my second year.
Okay, well, now I have to ask because a lot of people aren't even going to know about this avenue in the business. Most people think you hop into real estate, you're going to help people buy and sell houses, but you took a different path. You decided, I'm going to do this rental thing, I'm going to do the lease thing because of your connection with your mom. But how does that actually work? You rent out apartments and you get compensated for it. How do you find the tenants and how do you ultimately get compensated? How does that actually work?
So Boston's a unique market, similar to New York, San Francisco, LA. Obviously, it's a huge hub for students, medical professionals. We have tech, biotech. So we have a large influx of people trying to move to Boston. And because of that, the rental market has been kind of like the Wild West, where, the landlords and the brokers basically made the rules. So tenants moving to Boston were paying first month security. 1 month's broker fee and last month. So 4 months of move-in costs, what the average, the monthly rent would be up front. And so we would split that broker fee 50-50. So I would make half a month's rent per unit I rented. So, it can be very lucrative in the city of Boston because people are always trying to move here.
What kind of lease rates are they? Right? Because I can think in my market, right? Everybody knows that Liz follows the channel. I moved to the greater Memphis market, and you can go rent a house for $1,000, $2,000, right? So what's that look like in Boston? I'm guessing you have substantially higher prices that make it worth your while.
Absolutely. I mean, right now the median price is about 3,500, but in my neighborhood of Back Bay, which is one of the most coveted neighborhoods in the city, 300 square foot studio is going to run you like 2,500 to start. And that doesn't have a dishwasher, doesn't have a washer dryer, maybe not even in the building.
Ooh, wow, that's crazy. Okay, those are some crazy prices. Even when I lived in Seattle, those are crazy prices. So when you were going out trying to find new clients to be renters, how did you get connected with the people?
So, the brokerage that I started with, they basically had pocket listings and they would have us post them on Facebook Marketplace, apartments.com, Zillow, Craigslist, anywhere we could. And then all of those incoming leads would become my clients. And so, a few good clients were happy with the service I provided them. And honestly, I just kept getting referral business. I would say 90% of the business that I do is still based off of the referrals that I've gotten from the first year I was doing rentals.
Wow, that's impressive because that's 4 years later.
Mhm.
So now you're making the pivot into the sales business, right? And I guess how was that transition been for you? And can you walk me through the events and how you got your very first transaction?
Yeah. So actually, my first sale was actually my grandmother's property that had started all of this in 2021. So when I had left the original brokerage and joined where I'm at now, it was a 500 square foot one bed in a garden level of a brownstone. We sold it. I think I was 5,000 off the list price in the winter, which is typically horrible time of year. But we sold it in under 30 days. And actually, the person that purchased it, her agent didn't do rentals. So now she's become a client of mine. And I've rented probably 15 of her properties since that first transaction.
Wow. Okay. Okay, great. And you told me before we started this episode that you have now even sold $1 million property already in your business. What, how did you get that and how did the transaction go? Was it different than your other transactions or was it pretty similar?
It was pretty similar, actually. Like I said, I get a lot of referrals. So a parent actually put me in a Facebook group for parents looking for apartments for their students. And I got linked up with this woman who wanted to find a place for her daughter. And I said to her, you guys should really purchase. So they rented with me. They rented a 3 bed, and then one of the tenants moved out. And they said, you know what, Jax, this year's the year we're ready to buy. So they bought a 2 bed condo for over $1 million this year. So it was my first $1 million sale. So again, just renters turning into buyers. And
Wow.
now when their student leaves, that'll be another listing that I'll be renting out for them, for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And so, having been in the business for a while now,
Mhm.
if you could give a brand new agent feedback, would you suggest that they start with leases, or would you suggest that they not start with leases? Or kind of what would your initial advice be on the way that they should start with the growth of their business?
Honestly, it depends on what your future goals look like. I wanted to do rentals because I understood the business and I saw that this was going to be a model for my future. I want to purchase rentals and have that be part of my income moving forward. But I would say if you're interested in leasing, you might want to start with a luxury building and working in a leasing office first before you get your real estate license because you basically be doing the similar transactions and you'll get to understand whether or not you really like it. And then you can kind of afford to pay for all of the dues and everything that goes into being a realtor and getting your license. But if you are somebody that's interested in flipping or, other kinds of avenues in this business, I definitely wouldn't start in rentals. And like you said, it's not really a hot spot in most of the country. It really is specific to certain states. And I will say here in Massachusetts, they just changed the broker fee laws. So now the listing agents have to be compensated by their landlord and they can't charge a fee to the tenant, which is basically disrupted our industry. There have been some not savory characters in this industry, in the rental business in Boston for a long time. So I'm hoping that kind of shakes it up and, gives the consumer a little bit more money back in their pocket. But I know for my clients who come here internationally or nationally that aren't from Boston, they'll continue to pay my fee because they're not here. I have to do virtual tours with them because there really isn't a way for them to come see the market. And, it's very competitive. So you could come here for a weekend and we could apply to three places and you might not actually get accepted.
Wow. Yeah, that is a crazy, crazy market. I don't know of another market like that, especially today when things are slowing down a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned there that you were thinking that you got into the leases because you ultimately want to have things like that in your portfolio. What does long-term Jax's business look like? What's the long-term vision for you, and how do you think you're going to achieve it?
Well, to be honest, when I first started, I thought I was going to, follow in my grandmother's footsteps and purchase properties all over the world and have rentals that way. But then when I joined the brokerage that I'm at now, I realized I can actually do sales in other countries. So that's kind of where my focus is because, a lot of people in Boston are international, so they may not be from here, or the people that are may be interested in purchasing second homes not in Massachusetts. And I want to have the accessibility to be able to bring my clients all around the world. So that's my long-term vision is to be able to service my clients not only here in Massachusetts, but globally.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess, oh, this is another, I think, kind of interesting thing for people. You said that most of your clients were coming from referrals. When
Yes.
they're not coming from referrals and you're forcing the business from some sort of prospecting, what is the main way that you are finding success?
I would say besides my sphere and from my client referrals, a lot of my business is now coming from Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I do a lot of posting on social media. And then I just crank networking events. I just am not somebody that loves phone calls. I don't like a cold call. I like a warm call. So I am out hitting the streets every event. Jax is a very unique name, but I can tell you if you come to Boston, you'll see people stopping across the street to wave to me. I'm very well known, but that's because I'm out and about and I'm always meeting a lot of new people.
Okay, so you're doing events. What kind of networking events are these? And how do people find these types of, is it like chambers events? Like how do you find them?
Yeah, so I'm really well connected to a lot of different industries. So restaurant, hospitality. I have a lot of friends that own restaurants and businesses. So either it's something in that realm, or my lenders and my attorneys are bringing me to events. There's a lot of small business, young business, professional networking. Business groups that meet up. So I try to do at least one or two a week once it's in busy season, just because, you want to stay top of mind with your preferred partners and, be out there networking with new people.
No, that's absolutely true. I guess if assuming the business grows the way that you want it to, obviously you're not 80 years old. So what is your plan in 20 years, right? You built the business, you're doing the sales. Do you plan on growing a team? Do you plan on just throwing money at investments? What is your vision for that?
Well, luckily, where I'm at now, I have the opportunity to grow a team untraditionally. So I allow my agents to grow their own business with their own marketing and logos. But, we help each other like we are a team. So I have three agents here in Massachusetts, but my goal is to bring on other agents from around the world, so that, again, I have the ability to network and bring my clients to people that I like, know, and trust, just like they do with me.
No, that's awesome. I'm sure people are kind of just curious, like what you even mean by that. And so, what Jax means by that is she did join a brokerage called EXP Realty, and when you did that, you gave yourself the ability to grow an organization, a revenue share organization, where, and if nobody knows about this, and if you've been following my channel, I don't know how you don't, but if you have heard me talk about this, what that means is people can actually come join just the brokerage, not join a team with extra splits and fees, and still be given tools, resources, trainings, events, and stuff like that by being connected to the right organization. But when you chose to join EXP,
Mhm.
what was the main driving factor just from the brokerage perspective? Why pick EXP?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, so I interviewed the typical big box luxury places, and it felt very much like my career in retail. It felt very corporate, and it felt like somebody had their thumb over my head, and that there was always going to be someone over my back. And it just didn't feel like a real entrepreneurial business. What set EXP apart was, number one, it's virtual. So there's no office to go to. The first brokerage I was at, it was a very Wolf of Wall Street kind of, basement, grimy. If you didn't show up before 9, the broker didn't give you leads. It was a really uncomfortable space for me. So that was the huge driving factor was, oh, I can do this anywhere and nobody's going to be breathing down my neck, and I can actually run my own business from day one and give myself a 30% raise. Sign me up.
Well, plus you're in Boston, not New York. Why are we in a boiler room? Um,
Exactly.
so, so you thought EXP might make a lot of sense, but ultimately you ended up getting connected to the same organization as me here at the Wolfpack. And why and how did you ultimately get connected with our group? And why did you pick our group? If you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I know, I've heard you talk about EXP, Garth. What does that mean? Well, people can pick different people to be connected with inside of the company. Just like if you went to a big old red brokerage that has a billion brick and mortar shops. Well, one of the brokerages is not like the one when you drive down the street 2 cities over. They're very different. Culturally, dynamically, sometimes the fees and splits and everything is different, but mainly there is a culture difference and a assets and tools difference between office to office. But when you were delving into who best to get connected to organizationally, how did you stumble upon the Wolfpack and why did you pick us?
That's an incredible question. And the story is really great because actually somebody hit me up on LinkedIn from a different organization. And I went through the call with them and their leader. And, I thought, okay, this is cool. But I didn't feel emotionally connected to those particular individuals. And it was actually a friend of mine who had worked with another guy in our group, who had just joined under Mike Sherrard, and he was telling me about Mike. And when I listened to Mike explain the company, it felt like I was listening to a completely different, um, like the whole model was so different based off of the value that Mike was adding to what EXP already gave, and just the support, the language, and the openness of both my sponsor and Mike made me feel at home, and that I could really run a business 10x faster than I could with this other group. So that's really what drove me to the Wolfpack was the community, and the support and the value.
Okay. Well, that's great things for people to know. But what would you tell somebody who's listening today and they're a brand new real estate agent? You just told them this is super cool. It's a great culture. It's a great organization. It's a great company, but it's virtual. And I feel like I need that hands-on support that's in person that can help me.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, your experience was in a boiler room, but what would you tell them in response to that concern?
I will say that comes up often. And, you know, in typical office scenario, you're around people all the time. And most of the time, you're not doing income producing work. You're really just chit-chatting around the water cooler or, the desks. But what I find is because we are virtual, we actually intentfully find ways to meet up in person and have real meaningful relationships. Whereas, when you're in an office scenario, you kind of feel forced to have those relationships. And this is really just a much more real and deep connection. People really care. I'm on the phone with agents in my state all the time. We help each other out, do each other's broker opens, we support each other. So, I don't really feel like I don't have the hand holding. I actually feel more supported than I have in any business endeavor I've ever done.
You know what's absolutely crazy? I'm going to parrot that for everybody here today. I have been at three different brokerages. One, a massive regional brokerage. Another one was a luxury brokerage I got headhunted into. And another one was a brokerage that I owned and built to four offices. And what I can tell everybody here today is something simple. Number one, being at the office does not correlate to increased performances in production. Number two, the amount of time that you are going to waste getting ready, driving to the office, talking to the random agent that's 90 years old for some reason that lives there somehow, and then going to the office meeting, because that's primarily the only time you're ever going to go there, and then listening to 45 minutes of random BS because now all the agents are going to start telling you about their newest listing, and then I have this client and I have this client, and now you can finally get to the meat and the potatoes of what the person's going to talk about today for about 5 minutes. And then when the meeting wraps up, you have to go talk to all the other agents, glad hand around for another 30 minutes. And then let's say you want to get back to work. You're going to probably drive back home to go to your office at your house because you can actually focus there, or you're going to have to like pay for space to be in that office and you don't want to do that anyways. But let's say you go back home. Now you got to drive another 30 minutes. We're talking about wasting three or so hours just to go to a meeting. Whereas here you could just say, click, you're into the meeting and we don't waste time. We go straight in to
Yeah.
the important information that actually changes people's businesses. And this is the other thing that I'm going to say about it. And I think this is kind of ridiculous, but true. If we sat down and we said, we have four offices and 137 agents here, let's track how many people come to the office. Less than 10% of the people ever come to the office. Outside of a big office meeting, less than 10% will actually go to the office. So if you're an agent thinking you're going to use the office, the answer is you will not. You might, and this is what the data will show us, you might show up for the first month to 3 months. But here's the problem. You're not surrounding yourself with the top agents. The top agents are not in the office unless they're running a team and they have a closed door and whatever. Outside of that, you are not surrounded by the top agents in your office. You're surrounded by the agents that are going to complain, that are going to talk about how negative the market is, that are going to talk to you about things that they are trying as well, because you're connected and surrounded by the other new agents that are still coming to the office because they haven't given up showing up. And because of that, you're not going to be given the mental state to go massively perform. And what I can say is, after being a part of this business for almost 13 years, this is the best culture I've ever found. This is the most productive culture I've ever found. And this is the best mindset driven group of individuals I have ever been a part of, not just from a business perspective, but from a values and health perspective as well. That's the other thing. You come and you want to stay partner with us, which by the way, you guys can do. Click the link in the description below, set a time to talk with me. Make sure to put in the notes that you found me through the conversation with Jax, and we can have a conversation about what it looks like to partner with me. And what'll happen is you'll see that you come to one of these events, most of our people aren't just happy and fulfilled, they're usually fit too, which is a really weird occurrence when you look at the statistical average of real estate agents. But that's because of the overall mindset of the organization of trying to better ourselves in all aspects of our lives. If you could leave everybody that's watching today one important thing to think about in the growth of their business, whether they're new or they're experienced, that you would impart on them that's unique, what would it be?
I would say never stop learning and think about your business 30 years down the road from the jump. Because I think a lot of people that get into this business, they just think about the immediate gratification of getting clients and closing business. But it really is, where do you see yourself going in 30 years? How are you going to leave your mark? And how will real estate be the vehicle that you use to do that?
No, that's really good. That's really good. Guys, like I said, click the link in the description below, schedule a time to have a conversation with me. Again, make sure to note that you found me through the video with Jax, and I hope to see you on a call with me soon. Thanks so much for joining us today on today's episode of The Choice, Jax. We will hope to see you in future episodes talking about drastic changes in your business down the line.